Welcome to the real life show, Living with a Chronic Illness. We are your hosts, Cassie and Chelsea. I'm Cassie, a single mom living with a chronic illness who is extremely passionate about living a full and happy life.
And I'm Chelsea, a mindset coach that has a passion for helping people learn to put themselves first and be the best version of themselves each and every day.
We came together to create Spoonies Unite, an uplifting community that offers resources, guidance, and support so you can live your best life while giving you the space to be yourself, be heard, and feel understood. We hope that by providing education from experts, we help Spoonies and their loved ones thrive.
This show is not only for those who live with a chronic illness, but their friends, family, spouses, and just anyone else existing on the earth. Our goal is to normalizing having a chronic illness by sharing the real stories with real people and show the world how relatable those everyday struggles can be. There's a little something in here for everyone.
And of course, thank you to our patrons for your continued support making this possible. If you love our show and want to get some extra goodies, go to patreon.com/therealspoonies.unite. Enjoy the show.
Hey everyone, welcome to today's episode of the Real Life Show, Living with a Chronic Illness. Today, Cassie and I are talking about anxiety and depression. So these two topics are not always the most fun, but chances are you've experienced one or both of these in some way. And a lot of individuals living with chronic conditions experience this a lot. And so we wanted to talk about it.
Yeah, we want to talk about it because just like you said, it may not always be the most fun thing to talk about, but it's an important thing to talk about. And we like to talk about the important stuff, whether it's fun or hard. And so we're going there.
Yes. And this is something that both Cassie and I have personal experience with. We both experience anxiety. We both have experienced depressive moments or times. And so we're excited. I don't know if excited is the right word, but we're happy to share our own experiences and research that we found and things that have helped us in the hopes that maybe it'll help you.
Yeah. So we're going to start with some great research stuff because, you know, we do like to use the Googles and then we'll talk a little bit about some of our own experiences with anxiety and depression. And then towards the end of the episode, we will talk about what's helpful for us that could possibly be helpful for you too. So definitely stay tuned. It's going to be a great one.
So as Cassie said, we did some research and there are a couple articles that we're going to read to you. Well, not necessarily read the entire article, but some parts of it because they're just very impactful and we could not say it better ourselves. So the first one, and all of these will be linked in the show notes. So if you're like, oh, I want to go read this myself, just go to our show notes, click on the link. This first one is from Mental Health America, and it's titled Chronic Pain and Mental Health. At some time in our lives, we all experience pain, physical and or emotional discomfort caused by illness, injury, or an upsetting event. Though most of us would rather avoid it, pain does serve an actual purpose that is good and seen as protective. For example, when you experience pain, your brain signals you to stop doing whatever is causing the pain, preventing further harm to your body. Pain, however, is not meant to last for a long time. Pain that typically lasts less than 3 to 6 months is called acute pain, which I just want to interject. 3 to 6 months does not feel acute to me.
I know.
Like
I
at
thought
all.
the same thing.
Like 3 to 6 days feels like a long time. But
I know.
Anyways.
I thought the same thing.
For some people, pain can be ongoing or go away and then come back, lasting beyond the usual course of 3 to 6 months and negatively affecting a person's well-being. This is called chronic pain or persistent pain. Put simply, chronic or persistent pain is pain that continues when it should not. Chronic pain is often associated with other health conditions such as anxiety and depression, resulting in a low health-related quality of life. Living with daily pain is physically and emotionally stressful. Another interjection. I'm sure all of you listening to this that are like, have chronic pain are like, fuck yeah, it's awful. So yeah. We'll get there. Don't worry.
Plus, just also to interject too, I liked the sentence that said, put simply, chronic or persistent pain is pain that continues when it should not. Because for me, it had a little bit of like validation, kind of like, yeah, I'm not supposed to actually be living with this pain, you know?
No.
Yeah.
Not even a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
No. Yeah. Living with daily pain is physically and emotionally stressful. Chronic stress is known to change the levels of stress hormones and neurochemicals found within your brain and nervous system. These can affect your mood, thinking, and behavior. Disrupting your body's balance of these chemicals can bring on depression in some people. There are several ways chronic pain associated with these conditions can interfere with your everyday life. It can affect your ability to function at home and work, and you may find it difficult to participate in social activities and hobbies, which could lead to decreased self-esteem. It is also common for people with chronic pain to have sleep disturbances, fatigue, trouble concentrating, decreased appetite, and mood changes. These negative changes in your lifestyle can increase your pain and dampen your overall mood. The frustration of dealing with this can result in depression and anxiety. Mm-hmm. How many of you at home are like, this is me, I'm raising my hand, hi, hello, This is my life. So, prevalence of mental health conditions in those with chronic pain. Chronic pain, one of the most common reasons adults seek medical care, has been linked to activity limitations, dependence on opioids, anxiety and depression, and reduced quality of life, all as we've already mentioned. Mm-hmm. Research shows that those with chronic pain are 4 times more likely to have depression or anxiety than those who are pain-free.
Yeah, like, hear that, people. You're already like 4 times more likely to have depression or anxiety than those who are pain-free.
And also, can we just say you're already having to deal with pain and now you get anxiety and depression thrown on you on top? Like, let's just add to the shit store.
Yeah, it's a little bit of like a sense of freedom though, of like, you know, you're like handed kind of like a shit stack of cards sometimes. And I at least when reading this felt some freedom, like no fucking wonder, you know, no wonder sometimes life is hard. Okay, keep going, Chelsea.
You're dealing with a lot. Mm-hmm. Do your best. It's okay. In 2016, approximately 20% of US adults had chronic pain, which is approximately 50 million people, according to this article. And 8% of US adults, approximately 20 million, had high impact chronic pain. So I just have to interject again my thoughts. We're in the middle of the coronavirus where like, I don't even know what the percentage of people in the States are getting COVID, but like the death rate is the people are like, it's only a few percent. Well, 20% of the US population is 20 million people. Mm-hmm. It's a lot.
No, 8% is 20 million people.
Oh yeah, 8%.
Which is a lot.
8% is 20 million people.
That's a lot of people.
So like, there's a lot of people. And that's just in the States. I'm not even including the world.
Yeah.
All right. Anyways, lots of people are dealing with chronic pain, like even more than are being affected by the virus right now, which is impacting everyone's lives. Mm-hmm. All right. So high impact chronic pain is pain that has lasted 3 months or longer and is accompanied by at least one major activity restriction, such as being unable to work outside the home, go to school, or do household chores. These people report more severe pain, more mental health problems and cognitive impairments, more difficulty taking care of themselves, and higher healthcare use than those who have chronic pain without these activity restrictions. So, common chronic pain conditions that are associated with mental health problems are
and are arthritis. Not limited to. And are not limited to.
So, if I do not say a condition that you have, but you're like, I still have anxiety, depression, because y'all, I struggle with anxiety and sometimes depression. Mm-hmm. I have no diagnosed chronic conditions. Mm-hmm. So it's not limited. It's just generally it's often
some
seen.
That are associated. Yes, exactly.
Yes. So arthritis, whether it's osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, psoriatic arthritis, lots of arthritis options, fibromyalgia, multiple sclerosis, back or neck pain, chronic migraines, and menstruation related pain,
which can include endometriosis,
PCOS,
fibroids, etc.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So many different things. So yeah, chronic pain, not fun at all. I know, I don't remember if we talked about this on the podcast, but Cassie, when you were going through your fistula surgery and you were in a lot of pain, I had a canker sore at like the same time. And before someone yells at me being like, Chelsea, a fistula surgery and a canker sore are not the same thing. I'm well aware of that. I'm well aware. But I mean, canker sores, they're not comfortable. But I spent the entire time being like, this fucking sucks and is annoying as hell. And I don't like this. But I had my other voice in my head going, but Cassie's going through way worse than this. So yeah, chronic pain sucks. And I'm so sorry to anyone listening that is going through it. My heart
I
goes
love
out
that
to
you
you.
shared that because you didn't tell me that you had a canker sore when I was going through that, obviously, because you were like, oh yeah,
I
I
thought
can't
I
say
did
this.
tell you.
No, with that, but it's really funny. And I hope that our listeners are like kind of giggling about that because yes, one does think, like Chelsea said, like, oh, I just had this freaking canker sore. Cassie just had fistula surgery. But at the same time, I also want to be like, all pain is relative. And so for you, that sucked and that's okay. It doesn't make it any less because mine was perhaps like more intense or whatever.
For me, it
Because
helps put into perspective of like, okay, yeah, this is annoying and that's my experience and it still sucks.
yeah,
And that pain, my pain is still valid, but it made me like in a weird way appreciate my level of pain because I
yeah.
knew it wasn't as bad as yours.
Okay, yeah.
And it
Okay,
helped
now
it helped me be more empathetic towards you because I almost like got a snapshot of what it felt like to be in pain constantly for like a
yeah.
week, even if it was very, 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 very different from what you were experiencing. And I will never pretend to know exactly what you went through because I have not had that
But it
experience.
made you like thoughtful and empathetic. See, I super
Yes.
like how you shared that and how you viewed it because like I was in a physical therapy appointment and the physical therapist said something about how I obviously have a really high pain tolerance because of what I'm living with every day. And I had a moment of like patting myself on the back of like, yeah, I do have a really high pain tolerance. Then I was like, you know what though? Sometimes the smallest thing ticks me off to where, or like triggers me to where I can't handle even the smallest amount of pain. And then I was like, some of us have a low pain tolerance and everything hurts just as much as it does for the people who have a high pain tolerance.
Yeah.
It's a spectrum. And so I kind of, then I went on this kick of like, you know what? Like pain tolerance doesn't matter. What hurts, hurts, and you're validated. Okay. So going back to the anxiety and depression aspect of our chronic pain discussion and chronic illness, we decided to have this research focused a little bit more to do with chronic pain because all of us who have a chronic illness or disability are experiencing chronic pain. Um, and if you're one who isn't, DM us because I want to know about that. But
Yeah.
anyway, so one of the things that's really stuck out to me in this article was kind of the freedom of like, if you are living with a chronic condition, chronic pain, disability, chronic illness, etc., that you are 4 times more likely to experience depression or anxiety. And that there's chemical things going on that contribute. Like it said in there, the stress thing that it
Mm-hmm.
said.
I don't love stress, but when I was doing a more personal training, I focused a lot on managing stress because it wreaks havoc on your body.
Mhm.
I think that there's some that would argue that a lot of chronic conditions can potentially come from an overload of stress in some way. And so I've always kind of believed that the more we can minimize the stress in our lives, the better health we're going to have. It just yeah,
Mhm.
stress is
Yeah, because
not
that's
good.
that's what it said here is chronic stress is known to change the levels of stress hormones and neurochemicals found within your brain, your and nervous system. These can affect your mood, thinking, and behavior. Disrupting your body's balance of these chemicals can bring on depression in some people. And when I read that, I was just like, okay, yeah, because look, their depression and anxiety can be very much to do with like a chemical imbalance. And that's something that I didn't understand for a really long time, I think. I had family members that lived with depression, anxiety, and I never fully understood it. Now, I wanted to share on there that with it talking about how your illness, condition, etc., could be what brings on your anxiety, depression. That's what happened for me. So, those of you that have been listening to our podcast for a while probably know that my mom passed away in 2011. After that, for about a year, I went to some therapy because I was having sleep issues. I had a lot of problems. A therapist diagnosed me with PTSD to do with it, and they wanted me to go on an antidepressant. And I was like, no, I just lost my mother. Like, that's why I'm freaking sad and depressed. I don't need to go on an antidepressant. I'd never needed one in my life. I was like, this is a very circumstantial kind of like depression. And I was pretty against it. And, I refused to go on something. I was like, I just need tools to help me work through this grief, basically. And I would say that for me at that time was pretty accurate. It was a more circumstantial situation. I just needed tools to work through my grief and some of the things I'd experienced in her illness. Now fast forward a few years, then I was sick and had been sick for quite some time. And I came into a place in 2017 again in the summer that I was not sleeping again. I realized after doing a little bit of research that I was having panic attacks like every single day. And I didn't know that's what was happening. I was experiencing like, tingling of the hands, heart racing, almost like I couldn't hear anything, and dizziness, and like I was going to faint. Like it was really weird. And like clammy and stuff. And I didn't realize that it was like panic attacks over and over, like multiple a day. It was real bad. And that my sleep was messed up. I couldn't fall asleep. It was really challenging. So finally I like talked to my doctor about it after researching. I was like, I think I'm having anxiety problems. And she was like, I really think if you just had some sleep, some better quality sleep, that you would be experiencing more improvement in your symptoms of your medical condition, meaning Crohn's. So she's like, I'd like to prescribe you an antidepressant. It's a really low dose. It's a really old one that could help you just get better sleep. And she's like, I think that's going to basically treat your anxiety. And I was like, okay. And so I started on trazodone at, I think it was 25 milligrams. I even started at half of a pill of 25 milligrams. I started really slow, a really small amount. And again, just to clarify, we are not medical professionals. I am not recommending this medicine for you at all. That's not happening. I'm just discussing my experience. So I started on trazodone. It totally helped my sleep, which then also helped my anxiety and depression. And I was kind of amazed because I was like, wow, I didn't realize that an antidepressant could make that much of a difference for me. Like I said, the sleep and everything. So fast forward again about 2 years. And then the beginning of this year, 2020, January, I was having really chronic migraines and headaches. I mean, I literally had a headache for like 6 weeks without it going away. And sometimes it was just more migraine like where I couldn't, light sensitivity, throwing up, etc. I didn't really know that it was going on as long as it was until Jamie said to me that he was like, you do realize you've had a headache for like a month, right? And I was like, what? Has it been that long? Oh my gosh. And then I realized, oh my God, it's been like 6 weeks. I haven't had a day without a headache. Because as those of you who know, who live with chronic pain, when it goes away, you kind of choose to forget about it because you just want to like keep going. So you just are like, okay, the symptom's gone and it's over with, and you forget. That's what I was doing. So after talking to my gastroenterologist about it, my doctor, and saying like, I'm having these headaches, I don't know if it's a side effect of my Stelara or like what's going on, she decided to change my antidepressant to amitriptyline. She said that amitriptyline can be prescribed to GI patients to help their cramping sometimes, and also to neurology patients to help their migraines and headaches. And so she's like, this medication is used, yes, as an antidepressant, but also as cramping and neurological stuff. And she was like, so I'm not, and she even specified, I'm not dismissing your symptoms to anxiety and depression, but this medication, this switch should help. It helped within like a week. And it was actually like when COVID started and our country like began to talk about going into shutdown was the time that I was coming off of my trazodone. I weaned off of it, had to have a week break, and then started a new antidepressant being amitriptyline. And that all happened in COVID. It was a really rough couple of weeks for me. Panic ensued. So I started amitriptyline. My headaches were gone pretty much right away within a week. My cramping actually improved a little bit. Since then, I don't think it's helping my cramping as much because I've been having other Crohn's issues. But I do want to share that because I used to be a little bit anti-medication, and I admit that I was kind of judgmental about it, like when I didn't know, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, maybe even. And now I'm definitely about like, we need to not freaking medication shame people, that there can be chemical imbalances happening that can sometimes only be helped with medication. So that's why I wanted to share that story. Chelsea, what do you feel like has made your anxiety worse when you've had it?
Well, COVID has just, the state of the world this year has just my mental health has not been good. It's been a roller coaster. There's been really good days. And then there's been really bad days. Today is a good day. It's a good time right now. but I think for me, this year I really had to reflect on what is stress and what is anxiety and what is the difference between those for myself. Because sometimes I think before I would lump them together. Or I wouldn't give myself enough credit of, yes, I was feeling anxious, and I would just blame it on like, oh, well, I just have a lot going on, so I'm just stressed. And so this year, I think I really had to start diving into what the difference is. And again, y'all, I'm an exercise scientist, not a mental health expert. So this is my own experience. But I've noticed that for me, I can be feeling anxious even when there is no logical reason for me to feel anxious. Like sometimes it's like, oh, if you like right now, the Pilates studio that I work at, we're in the process of moving. Cassie and I have a lot of stuff going on. Like there's a lot of moving pieces in my life on top of everything going on in the world. So it would be easy to feel stressed. But I don't feel that stressed. There's nothing like logically causing me to feel crazy, but I might wake up tomorrow feeling really, really anxious already just because that's where my body is right there and then. So I've had to really reflect on what does anxiety and stress feel like in my body and what is the difference. So like I've noticed that for me, there's certain, I call them like, they're not really triggers, but they are red flags that I feel within myself that I'm like, when I notice those, I'm like, something's going on that I'm either stressed or anxious about. And then I kind of work through it. So for example, when I get really, really anxious and when I talk about it, sometimes it happens. So I hope it doesn't happen right now. If not, we'll just go with it because it's a real life show. But my throat feels like it's closing in on itself. And it's like, and I start coughing. And sometimes it almost feels like I'm going to cough so hard I'm going to throw up. Like it's not like, oh, I'm going to throw up. It's I'm coughing. And I have coughed so hard I've thrown up before. It's not been fun. And so the only thing that I feel like I can't talk. It's not fun. And it's honestly, when it happens and if I'm in a public place, it's very, very embarrassing. Like I know talking in front of people used to cause me a lot of stress. And so I would have like before presentations in school, I would have that reaction a lot. And the only thing that I found to make it feel better is just to like drink water and like try to keep my mouth like from getting dry or like, oh, my throat's open. I can drink water. It's okay. And so there have been times where there's not a presentation. I don't have to talk in front of people. I'm not doing something that's causing me a lot of anxiety for that. But I will wake up and just kind of feel that feeling. I'll be walking around and I'll feel that feeling in my throat. That has nothing to do with what I'm doing that day or what I'm doing right there and then. And I've noticed that when I have that feeling in my throat and I just feel like I need to be drinking water or I'm going to like cough my lungs up, then that's a sign to me that I'm feeling anxious. And then when the spring, when the COVID happened, speaking of drinking water.
Sorry, I didn't know it was empty.
When the COVID started happening, and there was just a lot of uncertainty, other things I started noticing was I would get, my thoughts would race even more than normal. And my chest would feel kind of constricted and my heart would race. And so, Cassie, I'm really glad that earlier you shared what a panic attack felt like to you. Because to me, my definition of panic attack was like you couldn't breathe, like you had to go to the emergency room. Was like, that's how I defined panic attack. And having heard your experiences with it, I'm like, yep, I've had panic attacks before.
And I've kind of learned that there's like different levels to it.
Yeah.
You know, I think that some people can have them more severe where they can't breathe or they feel like their throat's closing up like yours.
Hey everyone, I know you're enjoying this episode of the real life show Living with a Chronic Illness, but we're going to pause for a moment because I want to tell you about our most recent offering to help you live your best life. It is mywellnesshub.co. At mywellnesshub.co, you will find a comprehensive resource library for chronic illness individuals to live their best life. You know, all those hours you spent searching on Google to find that thing that's going to help your pain, or that thing that's going to help you feel better, or what type of diet to work, what books to read, what podcasts to listen to, all the stuff. Well, we're putting all of that into one single resource library to make it easy for you to find the resources you need. And as part of that, we have our membership site, The Hub, where we're providing education for you at the low cost of $15 a month. You're going to get classes from experts around the freaking world, multiple times a month, multiple times a week. You'll have access to the recordings from the past, all sorts of really, really good stuff. So make sure you go check out mywellnesshub.co.
But yeah, I just want to bring that up about the panic attack, because I had the same misconception, Chelsea, like yours. Like, I thought that the only thing a panic attack was basically you thought you were having a heart attack. Then you go to the ER, learn it's a panic attack, but there are different levels. And so yeah, that's why I wanted to bring it up. And so now you're like, oh yeah, I've had one of those. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so basically for me, anytime I start overthinking, worrying about things that probably are never going to happen, like I can be a little bit of a worry wart, things like that. When I'm overwhelmed in my life with there's just too much going on and I haven't set good boundaries, and especially with the uncertainty and all the change that just keeps happening in the world, all of those things I've noticed have increased my anxiety. And I don't know, since we don't record episodes in order at all. And so I think I shared this on Instagram, but I got COVID. Mm-hmm. And so there is a part of me that is slightly more anxious. We had very, very mild symptoms. I'm totally fine, y'all. I'm incredibly lucky. Do not use me as an example of, well, Chelsea got it and she was fine, so if I get it, it'll be okay. No. Take this seriously. Wear your mask, wash your hands, stay away from people. Cool. Mm-hmm. But there's a part of me that's like I have a headache right now. And I'm like, so do I just have a headache today? Or like, is this the beginning of chronic migraines because I had COVID? Mm-hmm. And like that anxiety is brought, like, I'm no longer scared of getting it, but now I'm like, oh, what's going to happen?
What, now you have anxiety, like, because I had it, now what? There's so much unknown. Yeah. That I'm glad that you shared that too, Chelsea. And I think like for people, and you know what, we also, we just put in the Spoonie Hub a like kind of like worksheet / how-to guide on how to help you like work through anxiety, because pinpointing things that make it worse is a big one. I noticed that if I think that's probably the same for everybody. If you don't sleep as well, you're more prone to get it. If I haven't eaten quite enough and my blood sugar is a little bit off and I'm a little shaky, that'll do it. Mm-hmm. And also I have found that a pattern for me is like, I'm really good under pressure. When I'm in a crisis or in a really stressful situation, I actually operate incredibly well. It's like a couple weeks after, kind of like the come down. Mm-hmm. That's when my body, like I start having panic attacks or hugely bad anxiety. Mm-hmm. And I will, at the time when I didn't know this pattern about myself, I'd be like, why am I anxious now? Everything's fine now. But it was almost like my body's way of kind of like coming down, and it will be completely out of nowhere for me. Mm-hmm. And so nothing, I have found that things don't necessarily trigger it like a stressful situation. Okay. So going into, again, a little bit of the like fact reading, there was a really interesting article written from and research study done by the Harvard Medical School. And they say that the overlap of anxiety. Oh, by the way, we wanted this to be a 30-minute episode. We're going a little bit over that now. We just hit our 30 minutes. It's going to be more like 40 probably. Yeah, okay. That's okay. We don't have anxiety about it.
Or do we?
Or do we? Probably a little bit, which is probably why I brought it up. Okay. The overlap of anxiety, depression, and pain is particularly evident in chronic and sometimes disabling pain syndromes such as fibromyalgia, irritable bowel syndrome, low back pain, headaches, and nerve pain. Psychiatric disorders not only contribute to pain intensity, but also to increased risk of disability. Interesting. Researchers once thought the relationship between pain, anxiety, and depression resulted mainly from psychological rather than biological factors. Interesting. Again, Chronic pain is depressing.
I don't want to interrupt you because I know we're taking longer than we said we were going to, but when will doctors and people in research stop saying that, oh, it's
in
mind,
your
like
head.
it's just in your head? Like the body and the mind are connected. Can we just please move on and acknowledge that in research? Please.
Well, and what I really liked about this was it was saying the relationship between pain, anxiety, and depression is from biological factors, not psychological factors. That's what it said. That's why it was once thought, and now they're proving it opposite.
Then I take back what I said. Good job, article. You're amazing.
Yeah, but for people who need to hear this article is what they needed to hear from you.
Your body and your mind are connected.
Yes.
If you haven't experienced that yourself, come take Pilates with me. Okay. Or Cassie. Yeah, all right.
Yeah, totes. Yeah. We can also teach Pilates virtually. Just saying. Okay. Chronic pain is depressing, and likewise, major depression may feel physically painful. But as researchers have learned more about how the brain works and how the nervous system interacts with other parts of the body, they have discovered that pain shares some biological mechanisms with anxiety and depression.
That's fascinating.
I know. In patients with anxiety or depression, various psychotherapies can be used on their own to treat pain, or may be combined with drug treatment. Cognitive behavioral therapy, I cannot read today. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. Pain is demoralizing as well as hurtful. Cognitive behavioral therapy is not only an established treatment for anxiety and depression, but it is also the best studied psychotherapy for treating pain. CBT is based on the premise that thoughts, feelings, and sensations are all related. Therapists use CBT to help patients learn coping skills so they can manage rather than be victimized by their pain. Okay, I had never heard of CBT being used for pain, only for kind of like trauma or depression. So that was really interesting to me. Other forms of therapies that can be used on your own are relaxation training, hypnosis, and exercise, which have all been proven to help. I found this really interesting. The Cochrane collaboration reviewed 34 studies that compared exercise interventions with various control conditions in the treatment of fibromyalgia. The reviewers concluded that aerobic exercise performed at the intensity recommended for maintaining heart and respiratory fitness improved overall well-being and physical function in patients with fibromyalgia and might alleviate pain.
And I just want to interject and say that if you are exercising at that intensity to maintain heart and respiratory fitness, it's not murdering yourself in your workouts every single day.
Thank you for that
want more information, we have a podcast on exercising. Go listen to it. I won't take up more time.
Yeah, Movement with Chronic Illness, season 1. So you might have to scroll back a bit, but that is some good shit. That's right. That was a great episode. We're going to have to talk about it again. And that's why I wanted to point out this part, and where it says too that more limited evidence suggests that exercises designed to build muscle strength, such as lifting weights, might also improve pain, overall functioning, and mood. Some antidepressants are also prescribed as double duty medications. SNRIs, TCAs, and SSRIs, you can look all of that up yourself, can all be helpful in alleviating anxiety and depression, but also nerve pain and other chronic pain. And this was really interesting. So again, we talked about the double duty medications that can be prescribed out of my experience earlier in the episode. But the exercise part, I think, is particularly important. I'm glad that you shared we have a Movement with Chronic Illness episode, season 1, that you can listen to more in depth about this, where we did some research too. But even with recouping from my surgery, I definitely had to take like a week or two. I think it was 2 weeks that I didn't do any movement at all. And then after that, I was just like, oh my God, I need to move. Like everything hurts so much. I need to move my body. And there are ways that you can have movement and exercise that really can be pain relieving, and exercises that you can do that really do help in all of this stuff that we're talking about, that can help your pain, help your chronic illness, help your anxiety, help the symptoms of it, I should say. And if you haven't found the right movement modality for you, please DM us on Instagram, because this is something that Chelsea and I really do know about, which we say in our movement episode is we are the experts on this. We don't need to interview anyone, even though we do interview people about movement because we find it all fascinating, that we are experts when it comes to movement.
And if you're looking for different movement styles that will work for your body, on the Spoonie Hub, we have classes with Liv Lou that are flare friendly. We have classes with Allie that are they're not Zumba, but they're dance fitness for.
Oh my gosh, they're so fun, and they're all flare friendly. Mm-hmm.
And we've got Paulina. She shares her yoga classes. She does yoga classes for us.
And all three of those ladies have rheumatoid arthritis.
Yes.
So they know all about like joint pain, joint inflammation, and being friendly to your body with exercise. And Chelsea has foam rolling videos.
Cassie has Pilates videos.
I've got Pilates. I'm doing more. So really, like, if you are struggling with your movement, hit us up. Okay, so speaking of other ways that you can help anxiety at home, we have said exercise can actually be really helpful. And I would say that if you're experiencing like more of panic attack, exercise may not be the thing you need to do.
No.
But exercise on the regular is going to help to regulate that.
So Cassie, what do you do if you feel like you're having a panic attack to get out of it?
Oh my gosh, you know what? That's actually a really good question. I wasn't prepared for.
Okay, fine. I'll share what I
okay.
I do.
Let me think.
So when I've had moments where I feel like the panic attack, maybe it's not a full-on panic attack, but it is building to be one. When I can't think straight, my heart is racing. I'm feeling like I'm having a hard time breathing. Maybe I'm having those crazy coughs. For me, honestly, the best thing I found to get myself out of that is a distraction. Like there was one day I was driving home and I had a moment of like, I'm going to have a panic attack. This is not good. And I walked in, my fiance is like, hey, how was your day? Like, let's hang out. And I'm like, do not talk to me. Leave me alone. And I walked back to our room. I turned on our TV and I turned on The Office, which is like one of my favorite shows. It's like my relaxing show. I love it. Shout out to The Office. And I sat in bed with The Office playing and I played a game on my phone. It was like this, it was called Cooking Craze, but it was a game where like you had to match a lot of stuff. Like it wasn't a game that you can like half watch and like, you had to kind of focus on it. So I found something to focus on that did not leave room in my brain for anything else. And if anything else was flooding my brain, it was hearing The Office, a show that I love. And after doing that for 20 or 30 minutes, or I don't know how long I did, I kind of came out of it and I was like, okay, I feel better. I can breathe. I can think straight. So for me, I found that if it's truly bad, a distraction and getting myself out of whatever spiraling thought process that I'm in is the best way to move past that moment.
I'm really glad that you shared that and that we addressed the panic attack thing. So I would agree that distraction is often one of the best things for me. That might mean I need to get on the phone and talk to someone. I'm a talker. I'm a chatter. And I do have a couple of close friends that I can call who I can chat with. If they are not available or if you don't have that though, sometimes actually like going for a drive and listening to music on my own. And like, even if I go to get like a coffee or a tea, which coffee is not usually good for necessarily if you're having anxiety, but,
no
or like,
don't do the caffeine.
Yeah, maybe get decaf or whatever, or, you know, whatever that might be for me, because I don't get a lot of time to myself in my living situation, being a single mom and with my stepdad, going for a drive and listening to music and maybe getting like a Starbucks or something to have a destination to go to. So I'm not just driving completely aimlessly. That's been really therapeutic for me. And I would just like pull over and sit in a parking lot or whatever and have my windows down, listening to some music and just like let myself calm down on my own, because my panic attacks would be amplified when I was at home and I was worrying that like my son might know, or my stepdad, or I'd have to do all the things. And so just having like that time to myself was helpful. Or watching like reality TV, like basically shutting off and being like, I got to go to bed and I'm going to watch Love Island on Hulu. And that's what I need to do for myself. That's been helpful. And I also want to say that there have been times that I've had to take a half a Xanax, and that's been what I've needed to do. I was out of nowhere. I got a fear of flying. I say out of nowhere, it was actually one of the kind of like, I would say side effects or fallouts of my mom passing away. I flew to the UK from the US when I was 12 years old alone with my brother, who was 14. So I have flown. I couldn't even begin to count how many times I've been on an airplane and flown internationally and all over the place and on my own. But completely out of nowhere, 2011, my mom passes away and I have a huge fear of flying. And I literally almost got stranded on my own in Atlanta at the airport because I did not know how to get on the plane. And that kind of paralyzed me from flying for about 2 years. Then I talked to my doctor about it. I take that back, 4 years. Then I talked to my doctor about it. Actually, it's more like 5 years. I didn't tell anybody. I just freaked out and panicked flying and it was awful. But I would do it all internally. And anyway, then my doctor was like, why don't you try a Xanax? And I took a half a Xanax. And then I remember being on a plane with my now ex-husband and my son. And I like turned to him and I was like, take your headphones off. And he's like, what? And I was like, I feel great. Like, this is so fun. I feel awesome. And he's like, that's great. And I was like, no, but really, I'm doing great. So there's a time and a place that you need some medication. Mm-hmm. And at that point in time, so every now and then, if I'm really having a panic attack and it's been kind of like building, I might take a half a Xanax. So if this is you, talk to your doctor. You might need a medication intervention. A few preventative anxiety things like to help treat your anxiety at home that can help you overall in your overall well-being might be meditations, breath work, getting adequate sleep, making sure that you're eating so your blood sugar isn't going all crazy, listening to music, talking about it, therapy, counseling, coaching. A couple of things that you could do specifically might be like setting boundaries. Like, I don't check my emails after a certain time in the evening, and I don't check them before a certain time in the morning because my email inbox causes me anxiety to where it can spiral me into a panic attack that day. And then Chelsea, you did something to create that boundary too.
I deleted Facebook off of my phone because I found that I was just going down really scary rabbit holes and it just wasn't good. So I deleted it. And you know what? I don't miss it. It's kind of nice not having it on my phone, because then it also means that I'm only checking Facebook if I'm on my computer, and I tend to have a purpose for it because I use Facebook for work. And so it's a purposeful visit, not just because I'm sitting there scrolling. Setting boundaries I think is really, really important. My phone is also on do not disturb, like all the time. And I can get away with that because I don't have children that need to get a hold of me. My fiance hates it. Actually, a lot of people that I know hate it because people call me all the time and it goes straight to voicemail, and you can't get a hold of me. But that allows me to choose when I want to talk to people or not. Like, so if someone calls me and I see that I have a missed call, I get to choose how and when I reach out to them again. And that works really, really well for me. I'm not a big on the phone talker. Like, Cassie knows not to call. I don't know not to call her too. We're not phone talkers just out of the blue.
Fucking don't call, man. If I send a text, don't call me back. Text me back. Yeah. Good God.
And I'm a texter. There's something about talking on the phone that low key causes me some anxiety too. And so I just don't talk on the phone unless I don't have. If I have to, I will. It's not end all be all thing, but that helps me a lot, having those boundaries. I've learned to, again, not check my email, turn off apps or things that I use for work when I'm done working. We use Slack to talk with our team. Slack gets turned off on my phone and my computer when I'm done working. So that way I can deal with it later. Because I've been there when I'm allowing myself to stay plugged in all the time and people are asking for stuff. And I'm like, I just want to relax. And it just adds to the overwhelm. It adds to the stress. It adds to the anxiety. And I know for me, if I'm in an anxious period for too long, that spirals into feeling very depressed. And it just does not go well. And so by setting those boundaries, it can make a really big difference.
Yeah. I want to, before I lose this train of thought, I want to add on to that where you said you notice that it kind of spirals you into feeling more depressed. I want to just add on there that when you are living with depression, and I didn't understand this years ago, and now I do, there can be times that you truly just wake up in the morning and you feel low and you feel depressed and you feel dark. And it's like you wake up like that. And that is so hard. And that has been something that like I said, I didn't understand it. And now I have lived with that. I would encourage you to just be a little kinder to yourself on those days. And then kind of like look in your toolkit, be like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm already feeling that way. So what do I need to do today? Maybe I need to work out today and just try and get some endorphins going. Or maybe I need to make sure that I do a meditation today. Like you need to find what is good for you, which also might be you might need to schedule an appointment with your counselor or your therapist for that day. You may have a coach. I think there's a misconception out there about coaching too. Coaching can be a huge form of therapy and counseling. They're not licensed therapists and counselors. Some of them are, but it might be that you want to look into coaching, or you could reach out to your coach and try and talk to them. And then lastly, just to kind of like wrap up, social media influences can, yes, be very negative, or it can be really beneficial to you. Years ago, I went through and like took away all the negative influences in my social media and my Instagram. I'm not really a big Facebook person. I kind of scroll that for work stuff. Instagram is more of my happy social media place. But I went through a couple of years ago and like stopped following people that made me not feel good about myself or added to anxiety and depression. So if you haven't done that, like you really need to do that, because social media can also be a place of connection. And especially during our COVID times, like virtual connection might be the most of what you can have right now. And when you live with a chronic illness, condition, or disability, and you have more time at home or alone, or people in your life that don't understand, you might be able to find that connection over social media. So don't beat yourself up too much about it. And go through and unfollow people. Like there's this one gal that I follow who's kind of like a distant friend of mine, and she like lives her life, man. And I actually noticed, like, and I love her. I actually noticed though the other day that I felt a little depressed whenever I was watching her Instagram stories, because I was like, I'll never be able to do what she's doing. Like that life that she's living will never be a life that I'm going to have. And, like she'll just have, lots of like drinks and cocktails. And I like, sometimes I'm like, I just wish I could have a cocktail. And that's just something I'll never be able to do. I can have them every now and then, but I'll never be able to have like cocktails or alcoholic drinks multiple times a week. My body, that's just not going to happen. And, anyways, so I decided not to look at her Instagram anymore, because I was like, you know what? It's making me feel like I'm missing out on stuff. And I don't need to be feeling that way, because actually in my life, I don't really feel like I'm missing out on stuff. And so I need to get rid of that influence. So clear out your social media and only have people that, inspire you or make you feel good about yourself.
Yeah. One last thing I want to say is there's nothing wrong with dealing with your anxiety or depression, however you're feeling, in your own way, by yourself, asking for help with friends. But kind of just, if you are going that route, have a, I guess, kind of like feel on when you need to ask for more help. So for example, therapy is something that I think is really, really important, but it is not covered by my insurance, which is a whole other podcast topic probably. And so that is something that just doesn't fit fully into my budget at this moment in time. So even though I love therapy, I think it's a really good thing. I think I could benefit from it a ton. It's not something I'm currently personally pursuing, but I'm also very in check with how do I feel? How is my mental state? And I have made a deal with myself that if I go through a certain period of time where I just am continuing to not feel good and it's starting to affect my life on a lot deeper level, it's persisting longer than it normally does, then I've made the deal with myself that I'm going to figure out how to make sure I get that help. So I guess for anyone out there that's like, oh, well, yeah, I can't afford to go to therapy. I can't afford coaching. I can't afford medication. There are other things that you can do. I know, like, I use CBD and a lot of journaling and stuff like that. That helps me a lot. But I've also made that internal deal with myself that if there's a certain point where my normal stuff does not help anymore, that it's time to go ask for a little bit more in-depth help. So
that is great advice, Chelsea. And you know what? Just to add on to that too,
This is why our episodes are so long, guys. We always have good ideas.
I know. But this actually, I don't know why we were kidding ourselves that this could be a 30-minute episode. This is such an important topic.
While this is coming up, I need you, if you're listening,
yeah,
message us on Instagram.
Yeah.
At The Real Spoonies Unite, or send us an email, hello@therealspooniesunite.com, and tell us if you like how long our episodes are, because they're normally 45 minutes to an hour. There's a few that are less than that, but 45 minutes to an hour is kind of where the majority are. Can you please tell us if you want them shorter or you like them this long?
Yeah, because we've been discussing that. I'm really glad that you said that. Yeah, because we've been like, maybe we should really be stricter about keeping our episodes short. So give us your feedback, and then wait, bose lose my train of thought. When it might be that you need that extra help, like you lose your tools, like that can happen over time. Meaning I had a great toolbox of things that would help me with my anxiety and panic and depression, etc. And then when we moved to Kansas 2 years ago, I forgot all of my tools, everything. And so I went and started seeing a counselor here, and I basically went into the appointment and I was like, help, I don't remember what any of my tools are to get through this. And I was really effective at dealing with stuff on my own at that time. So it might be throughout your life that you have a little bit of a roller coaster, that you need more help than other times. And so just be open and kind of listen for that. And I think this was a great episode. So this was only 45 minutes. This was perfect.
So yes, we want to hear your thoughts. Take a screenshot of the episode, tag us on Instagram. Let us know your thoughts. Send us DMs. We love, seriously, when you guys send us DMs, we take a screenshot of it and then send it to the other person. Whoever reads it first, since we both have access to our Instagram. That literally is how excited we get when you guys send us messages. So send us messages. Let us know what you think. Let us know if you want us to not talk as much. We can try to be more succinct.
I really hope that you don't want us to not talk as much, though. Oh, and this might be a good time, because this episode comes out in December. This might be a good time to let y'all know that in January, we are going to be changing to an interview every week and a conversation between the two of us every other week. So now we are going to have 6 episodes coming out a month starting in January, because everyone keeps listening to our podcast, which makes us think you guys want more.
Yes. And also we have connected with so many amazing people through Instagram and then the internet, that we have so many interviews for you guys, and we don't want to wait anymore to give them to you. And we keep meeting more people, and so we're we're just going to do interviews more often. But
don't worry, because our conversations aren't going anywhere. You'll still get 2 chats between us a month on a variety of topics.
So every other week you get 2 episodes.
Yay. And speaking of getting in touch with us, because we truly do like it, you should also please feel free to be like, hey, will you guys discuss this topic or that topic? Because we're open to it.
Please. Tell what do you
I really hope that, okay. And if you're still listening to this episode, you're obviously a valued listener.
You are our favorite person in the entire world. So, I want to give you a big hug.
Yes. And so really, please do write to us, because obviously you've listened to us this long that we want to hear what you want.
You're the best.
Yay.
So, but I think that's it.
Yeah, we should go.
Okay.
Bye,
friends. Thank you for listening this long. We'll see you.
Love y'all.
/ be in your ears next week.
Yay.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please write us a review to help us reach more people like you.
If you'd like to connect with Cassie and I, you can find us on Instagram at The Real Spoonies Unite. You can also join our private Facebook community, Spoonies Unite, or you can visit our website, therealspooniesunite.com, for all sorts of resources and to stay up to date with our current projects. And don't worry, you can find all of these links in the show notes below.
Thank you to our wonderful Spoonie patrons for all your support, and you can become one too. That's right. All you have to do is go on over to patreon.com/therealspooniesunite, and you can get all sorts of extra goodies like videos of our episodes and more.
Any support is greatly appreciated. It helps enable us to create more content for all of you, as well as make this podcast sound better and better. Thanks for listening. We can't wait to be back in your ears soon.